Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to Sid's Little Corner of the Internet. We've got another Transformers review coming your way. This time around, we're going to be taking a look at the Transformers Kingdom War for Cybertron Waspinator. So as we always do, let's go ahead and take a look at that packaging first. And you've got Waspinator right up top. And down here you have that nice Waspinator artwork. Kingdom War for Cybertron, Transformers up the side. Over here you have that Kingdom artwork. On the back, you have your product shots, showing him in both of his very cool modes, 20 steps, manufacturing information, warning, sad baby, probably because Waspinator stung him. Over here, you've got that robot artwork. He is a deluxe class, and right there at that angle, you can see both of those modes. Up top, War for Cybertron K34. Down low, manufacturing information. And that is it for the outside of the packaging. So let's go ahead and take a look and see what came inside that box. And here we see everything that came inside that box, and it really wasn't a lot, but let's go ahead and get into it. We'll start as we always do with your little sheet of warnings. And you get your collector's card / sticker this time around. I got a Unicron. And you get your instructions. And the only accessory that he comes with is his Stinger weapon. So we'll go ahead and bring that in for the close-up now. Take a good look at it, and it sure looks an awful lot like a Stinger. And there's the underside. So not a lot to see on this guy. I mean, it looks pretty cool, all things being equal. But he's pretty basic for the most part. All right, so let's go ahead and bring this guy in for his close-up. All right, Mr. Waspinator, it is your time to shine. Let's come on in and give you that close-up. So we'll start up there with that head sculpt, and man, what a cool looking head sculpt this is. It looks really good. I like it. I like the greens and the purples and the yellows and the overall sculpt work and the molding in there. Great detail. And even if you look up top, just right there, right in front of the face, you've got some molded in detail, which is nice. Coming on down to that chest, which is that huge wasp head, which we'll see in his, of course, in his beast mode here shortly. But you do have this just right there in the middle. You've got some good detail in the middle there as well. And coming on down to his crotch. And right over here on the legs. We'll turn that a little bit so you can see. Got that nice black and yellow there. And, you know, for the most part, at least on the insides of his thighs, you know, there's not a lot going on as far as hollow areas. So everything's filled in pretty well. No major complaints there. And coming down to those shins, you've got those greens and yellows. Just the overall look of this guy is phenomenal. I absolutely love the way he looks. And you got some little wasp legs. Ooh, those look a lot like the Scorponok legs with his little tiny hands. Hey, high five. Anyway, coming on up here to those robot arms. Again, greens and yellows. Oh my. Good detail there. And making our way to the side profile. He's a busy bot. There's a lot going on here between the legs and the tail and the wings. There's a lot going on with this guy, but I think for the most part, he cleans up pretty good. No major complaints, really. Sometimes these legs get in the way, but they're not that bad. All right, and coming around to the back. Take a look there. And not a lot going on. I mean, you're mostly going to display him from the front anyway, so I'm not going to complain too much about anything that's going on here. He does have a lot of hollow areas in the backs of his legs, but this tail does a really good job. I mean, when you're standing there, it does a pretty good job of just hiding most of that. So, and like I say, more often than not, you're going to see your bot from the front. So if there are going to be hollow areas anywhere, hey, the back's the place to have them. All right. So as far as the articulation goes, you have a lot of motion in this head. The bottom of the head actually, it's reversed from most of the figures. So the head itself has the ball joint attached, and then it sits in a socket on the top of his chest. So you can get some really good motion, go all the way around with that head if you choose to do so. And I know most people might not, but I'm going to count this as articulation. And I'm going to count it for both modes. You can change the location of those antennas, do with them what you will. Same thing with these wings. You can pretty much take these wings and put them anywhere you want to put them. As far as the shoulders go, good range of motion in the shoulders. They come straight up that far, and you can go all the way around with them really easily. At the elbows, you get just under 90, and then you get the bicep rotation that, barring this Wasp leg, you could go all the way around with it. The Wasp leg itself can be moved to get it out of your way for various poses if you need it to. And then you do have, if I can get that Wasp leg back, there you go. And then you do have wrist rotations, so you can angle those wrists 360 degrees wherever you need to put it. He does have a waist rotation. Now, sometimes his chest piece can interfere with the waist rotation, but if you just bring his chest piece out a little bit, don't pull it apart, or push it together, keep it pulled apart. But if you bring that chest piece out just a little bit, you can rotate that waist pretty much all the way around, whatever you want to do there. All right, and then as far as the hips go, again, keeping in mind that these Wasp legs will get in your way. There we go. Let's push those down a little bit. You can, come on, buddy, you can do it. There we go. So depending on your angle, you can get really good splits out of this guy. And bring those back down. So he can kick forward that far. He can kick backward that far before he starts running into his body, but if you move the leg out, then you can get it that far up. So good range of motion in those hips. And at the knees, you can, there we go, trying to find the best view for you, just under 90 on those knees, but they can also bend, due to transformation, they can bend the opposite direction. So you can do a little bit of a chicken leg action with this guy, which is actually kind of helpful when you're posing him in his bot mode, because it gives you that ability to really line those legs up with his head. So I find this to be really helpful for posing. And as we saw just a bit ago, you can move these Wasp legs around to get them out of your way and to pose them. And then down here for the feet, you can kick the feet about that far forward or up and about that far down. And then you do have posability in those heels. Now these fold up, the entirety of those feet fold up like that for transformation, but you can take advantage of that for your posing as well. And he does have ankle tilt, so you can tilt them in about that far. So I know that was a bit of a convoluted articulation segment, but this guy's got a lot going on and a lot of stuff that you need to get out of the way before you can really get him where you want. Right there, he just looks like a mess. Poor Waspinator, the universe is always against him. Anyway, let's go ahead and, while we're here, let's just talk about his one and only accessory. There's not a lot going on with it. So take the Stinger weapon and plug it in. Look at that. Now he can shoot his Stinger at anybody that he wants to do. All right, so let's go ahead and get into transformation and put this guy in his beast mode. Now, before we start with transformation on Waspinator, I just want to make a quick note that because of all the literal arms and legs and wings on this guy, he can be a little fiddly and a little difficult to see everything that's going on. This is not a difficult transformation, but it is a bit of a challenge to capture everything on camera. So just please bear with me. I will do everything I can to capture everything to the best of my ability on camera as we walk through the transformation steps here. So to begin with, you are going to want to squeeze this head together. All right. And then once you do that, then you can actually pull that head out a little bit. It's just sitting there on a hinge right there. And then once you do that, you have two tabs back here. You've got a tab here and a tab here that are connecting this front assembly with this back thorax assembly. So go ahead and give that a pull and pull those tabs out. And then once you do that, right up underneath here, this entire upper assembly is sitting on a double hinge. So you're just going to take that and give this a pull on that double hinge so it pulls it away like that. What this is going to do is it's going to give you the ability to tuck this head away up underneath the thorax here. And when you do this, you have a little slot right there and a little tab right there. And you're going to swing all this together and you're going to tab this together right there. Now, although it's small, it actually holds together quite nicely, which is much appreciated. So give that a squeeze, and that should be what you end up with. Okay? And then we're going to turn our attention down here to these legs. Before I do these arms, I just want to get these legs out of my way. So you're going to give these legs a pull right there and swing this down. This is on a double hinge as well. So that way I just have all the clearance that I need to show you what I need to on this part. So what you want to do for these arms is these arms swing like this at the shoulder inward, and then you're going to need to do a little bit of prep for the forearms. You're going to do a little bit of rotation here. So I'll show you on this arm first. You're going to swing that shoulder in, and then obviously you can see that his insect wing or his insect leg is too far inward. So you're actually going to rotate on that bicep joint right there. And then you're going to come down here to the hand, and this is an important step, so don't bypass this. Rotate that hand 90 degrees so you're sitting at an orientation like that. All right, and then what you're going to do, you have, bring you close up here, you have a little peg sitting right there on his hand. It's going to correspond to this little tiny hole right there. And you're going to bend this arm at the elbow backwards, and that's going to align, and then you're going to push that arm into, or the peg on that arm into the hole right there. So line that up and give it a push and squeeze it in. All right, so you should have something that looks like that. We'll do the same thing over here. So you could proactively rotate that if you want, and then rotate his wrist and swing that shoulder in. Rotate that out. Bring this down and then line all that up and give that a squeeze. All right, so that gets you the front of the body, and at this point, if you want to just bring that head down, then that's the normal Wasp or Beast orientation. And now coming down here to the legs, so what you want to do on these legs is take these heels, flip them forward, and then take those toes and do something like that. So you're about like that. We'll fine tune these when we get there. All right, take this entire assembly. This rotates right there at this point. So you're going to rotate that 180 degrees. And then make sure you have these legs forward. So you can kind of see, kind of giving you a sneak preview here. This is the orientation that you're going to want, okay? Now, I'm going to get these wings out of my way so I can show you what I'm doing. You have this little hole right there. You can see it on the other side as well. So tucked away, let me get you on camera, right up in there, all right? That little guy. And you have this tab right here. So you're going to squeeze these together, and when you do, this is going to tab together very securely. So you're actually going to hear this snap on this. All right, that's not going anywhere now. Okay, so now what you need to do is you have a tab and a slot right there, and you can align those together. They may stay together, they may come apart. Doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things, because the next thing that you're going to do, you have to take this abdomen back here, and you're going to rotate this abdomen down so everything's nice and smooth. And as you do that, you're going to push these knees in like that, and you can see how he's all coming together at this point. And you'll see those feet, for me, they came apart at this point, and it's okay. I don't really care. So right here, you have this set of tabs on those legs, and they're all going to tuck away right in there. So you're just going to line everything up, and then you're going to feel it. It's going to be a soft click. You're going to push that in, and then you just give everything a little bit of a squeeze right there, and you're almost home at this point. So really the only thing that you're going to do now is you're going to take those toes, and you're going to angle those toes up so they just sit with that chest about like that. Okay? So now we are down to the cleanup mode. Now don't forget your stinger weapon. You need this to fill out the rest of his abdomen, otherwise, well, that's just not right. So you just take that, plug it in, and there you have his abdomen completed. Uh-oh, don't do that. Don't take the wings out. Just swing them around and do that. I mean, you can take the wings out if you want. I mean, it seems kind of cruel to pull the wings off that, but Then you turn his antenna up at whatever angle you choose, and then set him down, and there you have Mr. Waspinator in his Wasp mode. And me personally, I like this mode. I think it looks really cool. He does have a little bit of kibble going on down under here, especially if you look at him that way. But I think for the most part, this looks cool. I like it. So there you go. Now, what we'll do at this point is we'll bring him in and we'll take a look at those details and the articulation. He doesn't have anything as far as accessories go in this mode, so no need to worry about that. But we will take a look at his details now. So we'll bring him in and we'll look at that beautiful Wasp head, and he does have all of those individual compound eyes. So nice attention to detail there. And he's got those lovely mandibles. And coming over here to the side, I think for the most part, like I said, he comes together pretty well. You know, he does have a couple of gaps, but for a deluxe class figure, I think it works okay. So nothing that I'm too concerned about. As far as that abdomen goes, looks good. That yellow and black, warning nature to not mess with it. There's the other side. He does have nice texturing and nice molded detail in the wings with those veins, just like what you would see. So that's a cool touch. And even up here, I think the plastics that they used and the molded details, I think they did a good job here. And then under here, it's just a whole lot of tucked away leg. But it really doesn't detract from him. I don't think so. Not at all. All right, so as far as articulation goes, it's not the, and what do you expect? I mean, it's a Wasp. So, I mean, you can move these antennae whichever direction you want. And then you do have the ability to open these mandibles up. So the mandibles will open that much. And then, of course, you can close them. No other motion in the head. You can move these legs to orient them in whatever position you want. I mean, I guess if you want him saying, oh, hello, hi, you could do something like that. And then these wings are on a ball joint, so you can go all over with these things. I mean, up, down, forward, back, whatever you want to do. And that is pretty much it as far as the articulation goes with this guy. So let's move those legs down a little bit. There you go. All right, so now what we'll do is we'll go ahead and we'll bring in some beast mode comparisons or some other comparisons while he's in his beast mode, so you can see how he looks compared to some other figures. For our first alt mode comparison, here we have the G1 Insecticon Kickback. Next up is the Studio Series 86 Sharkticon Gnaw. Here we see Waspinator next to the War for Cybertron Kingdom Black Arachnia. Here he is next to the War for Cybertron Kingdom Scorponok. Here we see Waspinator next to the War for Cybertron Kingdom Leader Class Megatron. And just for fun, here's Waspinator with all those other Kingdom Beast Mode characters just for a quick family portrait. All right, that wraps up the alt mode comparisons. Let's go ahead and get him transformed back into his robot mode. Before we get started on transformation, just the same real quick disclaimer that I had before we went into the alt mode here. This guy's a little bit fiddly. There's a lot of arms and legs and wings flying around, so I'll do everything to the best of my ability to keep everything I'm doing on camera. So that being said, let's go ahead and get started. First thing you're going to want to do is take his Stinger weapon out. Now, I'm going to move these wings out of my way just for clearance and visibility. So you're just going to take that and give that a wiggle until it comes out, and then put that off to the side. Now you're going to pull these legs down and disconnect them from the body. And when you do that, that gives you the ability to have, at this hinge point right here, to bring that abdomen out. And now this is maybe one of the most difficult parts, because you're going to need to get that, see the little green thing right there, that's part of this piece right here. You're going to need to get that separated, and this is a real tight joint, so here we go. There we go. Makes me nervous every time I do that. So Snap that out of there, and then once you do that, that's going to swing down on this hinge, and then just bring those legs back and down, because it's going to be their orientation eventually anyway. So while you're here, go ahead and rotate this 180 degrees, bring it down, and then you're going to need to bring this up, so that tab right there is going to go into this little slot right there. So bring this up, and while you're doing that, bring those legs down, keep them clear, bring this up and push that together, and that's what holds that central area right there. And then bring these toes forward and then bring the heels back. So do the same thing on the other leg here. Toes forward, heels back. There is a distinct possibility that as I'm going through this transformation, this is going to come loose on me, and I'm going to have to tighten it back up. So just bear that in mind, that as you transform this guy, sometimes he gets a little loose in places. All right, now turn your attention to these arms right here. Just give those a nice pull, bring them out on either side, and then you can bring these shoulders, pull them out, and we'll clean these arms up here shortly. We're not going to do it right now. All right, so now once you do that, if it hasn't already done so, if you recall, we have this tiny little slot and tab system right there. You're going to pull that loose. You're going to bring that down. That's going to swing the Waspinator head out. When you do that, try to swing this part of the head forward. Now, you're going to bring this back up on this double hinge, and you have these tabs right here and right there that are going to align to these slots in the back. So you're just going to bring this forward like that, and then you're going to line these up. Give them a little bit of a squeeze and a push until you get him looking all nice and flush like that. And it helps, I find that it helps that if you put your thumb here and you put your fingers up here and just keep giving this guy a squeeze as you manipulate him, it helps keep him together in all the right places. So bring this chest down. We'll spread this out here in a second, but I am going to take those antennae and move them down so they're out of my way. And then for these arms, you're going to want to rotate that so this yellow is facing forward at the shoulder. Rotate the arm up like that so you have the bicep oriented correctly. And then rotate that hand 90 degrees. So all you have to do now is bring that arm down. So we'll do the same thing over here. Rotate that, and then rotate the hand 90 degrees, and you have his two arms completed. And now you can come down here. I just use these antennas, grab the antennas and give them a little bit of a split right there. Thumb, two fingers, give all that a squeeze, push that in. And something that helps is if you look in here, you should have alignment right in this area. So if you have a gap here like that, then you know that all this is still sitting up too high. So if you just thumb, two fingers, give that a little bit of a push, and this does want to keep separating. It's kind of annoying, but it's not that bad really. All right, it does help too if you take these mandibles and split those mandibles out wide, so that way they don't run into his crotch. All right. So there you have the arms complete. Then you're really just at this point in your cleanup mode. So take those legs, the Wasp legs, move them forward. Give him a little bit, or at least I do, I give him a little bit of a chicken leg stance. I find that that helps me with posing quite a bit. So bring that down, a little bit of a chicken leg, and then bring those wings down. And then once you have that, now you have Waspinator back in his bot mode. Hopefully that wasn't too difficult to follow with everything floating around out there. So hopefully you were able to follow that step by step and that works for you. So what we'll do now is I'll get this guy cleaned up a little bit more, and then we'll do the bot mode comparisons, and then we'll get into those final thoughts. So our first robot mode comparison is the G1 Insecticon Kickback. Next up is the Studio Series 86 Sharkticon Gnaw. Next up is the War for Cybertron Kingdom Black Arachnia. Next is the War for Cybertron Kingdom Scorponok. And for our last individual bot mode comparison, here we see the deluxe class Waspinator next to the leader class War for Cybertron Kingdom Megatron. And just for fun, here's a little Kingdom War for Cybertron Predacon group shot. Now, of course, this doesn't include all the Predacons, but I just wanted to throw a few of these guys together just so you could get a sense of scale, and also because they look pretty cool together. I'm really digging this. So there you go. And that wraps it up for the bot mode comparisons, so let's go ahead and get into those final thoughts. Alright, so let's talk about the Transformers Kingdom War for Cybertron Deluxe Class Waspinator. In short, I have to tell you that I like this figure. He has his eccentricities, he's got a few things that mildly annoy me, but this is a beloved character from the Beast Wars franchise, and overall, I think that this is a well-designed, well-engineered figure that has great shelf presence, and of course brings this character to life, which is just fantastic. So overall, generally speaking, I'm happy with this figure, but let's go ahead and get into those bullets, and we'll start first with the aesthetics. So I think for the most part that this guy looks great. He has great shelf presence. He looks good in both modes, but particularly in his Wasp mode. I love him. I adore him in his Wasp mode, and that's probably how I'm going to display him on my shelf. I would have scored him a little bit higher, except for a few of those hollow areas. So he does have those hollow areas in the backs of his legs. As I mentioned earlier in the review, that's not typically something that you see, but I still think that that's something that they could have done a little bit better on this figure. And then when you remove the Stinger weapon, you just have that hollow area on the back of his abdomen, and it would have been nice if they could have done something more with that. I'm not entirely sure what it would have been, but it would have been nice if they could have done something more there. But overall, I think aesthetics are pretty good. I'm going to give this guy an 8 out of 10 for that. So going on to the articulation, if it wasn't for everything getting in the way of itself, this guy would have phenomenal articulation. He doesn't have the best hip splits, if you will. He's not going to do a Van Damme, but you can get his legs split far enough to do what you need to do, and forward and back. So you can get him in some nice dynamic poses. Like I said, if it weren't for him running into himself, if he's not running into the Wasp legs, he's running into his abdomen. If he's not running into his abdomen, then the wings are getting in the way. And if the wings aren't getting in the way, then his Wasp head, chest piece is getting in the way. So it's just kind of some mild annoyances there. But if you can work around that, he really does have good articulation. So again, keeping in mind this is a deluxe class figure, I'm giving this guy an 8 out of 10 for the articulation. Now, as far as accessories go, I'm dinging him a little bit on this one because, yeah, I know in the show the only thing he really used was the weapon that he comes with, which is his Stinger, and that's fine. And I don't really know what I would have expected other than that. So I am giving him a 7 out of 10 for the accessories. The reason I didn't score him lower on that for just having the one accessory is because at least this is a unique mold. So Hasbro and Takara haven't done their blatant cash grab yet. I'm sure that at some point they'll reissue this mold as a different figure, and I'm going to score them lower because it's just the cash grab method. But for now, I'm giving this guy a 7 out of 10 for his accessories. Overall quality, moving on to that next point, the overall quality out of the box, I don't have any issues with this guy. Everything is tight. The paint apps look good. He came with everything that he was supposed to come with. My biggest complaint, if I had to put it on a wish list, was I really would like to see them get away from using ball joints for those hips. I just think over time they're not going to hold up. So overall quality, I'm giving this guy a 9 out of 10. So very, very good on quality. And then the last point, overall value. There are a few things that go into this, and it is very subjective, but keeping in mind that this is a deluxe class figure, a $20 US figure, as I mentioned earlier, this is a beloved character, and I think for the most part that this design captures him very well in both modes, and I didn't feel any pain whatsoever with paying that $20 for this figure. I really do genuinely believe he was worth it because he's so much fun to have in the collection, and he's just funky and unique, and he just fits in as he should with all those other Kingdom Predacons. So overall value, I'm giving this guy a 9 out of 10. I think he is certainly worth the $20 US picking him up. So that gives this figure an overall out of a possible 50, a 41 points out of a possible 50, which puts him at 82%. And I have no hesitation in recommending picking this figure up if you can find it. I wouldn't pay scalper prices for this figure. He is showing up in the wild. I did find this Waspinator on a shelf at a local Walmart in North America, so I know that they're out there in the wild. It's just a matter of finding one. But I think if you do, don't hesitate in picking him up because you're going to really enjoy him. So with that being said, that's going to wrap up the review. I hope this helps you make a good decision, and I hope you were entertained during it. If you haven't already done so, please be sure to hit that like button. Be sure to subscribe to the channel as we have plenty more reviews coming your way. We have no intention of slowing down whatsoever. And be sure to leave us a comment and let us know what your thoughts are. I'd love to hear what you think of this figure as well. So with that, that's going to end the review. Until we talk to you guys in the next one, take care.